Ladies and gentlemen, we gather today to reflect on one of the deepest mysteries of human life, love. Not the shallow imitation that so often fills our conversations, but the profound realities that shape our character, our choices, and indeed our destiny. Love is not one thing, but many. It comes to us in forms so different that if we were to confuse them, we would wound both ourselves and others. And yet, when rightly understood, each kind of love becomes a gift that enriches the soul. The first of these is affection, the humble and quiet love born within the home. It is the warmth of a mother's touch, the familiarity of a sibling's laughter, the bond of those who share the same hearth. It is often overlooked because it is ordinary, but it is in these simple ties that the roots of our humanity grow deepest. Next is friendship, a love rarer and perhaps more noble. It is not demanded by blood nor compelled by need. It arises when two souls stand side by side, seeing the same truth, rejoicing in the same vision. In friendship, we discover companionship in the pursuit of meaning. And though the world may undervalue it, true friendship is one of the purest joys we are given. Then comes Eros, the love of desire. This is not mere physical attraction, though that may be its spark. It is the longing to belong wholly to another, to unite not only in body, but in heart and spirit. Eros carries both beauty and danger. Exalted, it can ennoble life. Distorted, it can enslave. To honor it rightly is to recognize both its fire and its fragility. And above them all is charity, the love that descends from the highest. It is unconditional, selfless, and inexhaustible. Where other loves may falter or turn inward, charity gives without asking, forgives without measure, and heals what seems beyond repair. It is not earned, it is bestowed. It is, in truth, the love that completes all other loves. When these four are woven together, a fuller picture of human nature emerges. Affection grounds us. Friendship ennobles us. Eros stirs our passion. Charity redeems them all. To live without them is to live half a life. To live with them rightly is to taste something eternal. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us not mistake one love for another, nor elevate one at the cost of the rest. Instead, let us learn to receive each as it is meant to be received, and in doing so, discover the richness of what it means to be truly human. Affection is often the most overlooked of all loves, precisely because it hides in plain sight. It does not arrive with trumpets, nor does it set the heart ablaze in passion, yet without it, much of life would lose its warmth. It is the bond that forms within the home, the unspoken familiarity between those who share daily bread, the quiet comfort of being among people who know us not because of great achievements, but simply because we are theirs. This love is unglamorous, and for that reason many mistake it for something less than love. Yet its very ordinariness is what makes it indispensable, for it is through such affection that the soul first learns to love at all. We recognize affection in the simple gestures that rarely make their way into poetry or song. It is the child running to a parent without reason, the neighbor greeting us with a smile we have come to expect, the old dog lying at our feet, content simply to be near. These are not grand gestures, but small tokens of a bond that has grown slowly and without effort. It is as natural as breathing, as unconscious as the rising of the sun. And perhaps because of this, we can easily take it for granted, imagining it will always be there. Yet the absence of such affection is often more deeply felt than we expect. When the familiar chair is empty, when the expected voice is silent, it is then that we discover how much this quiet love had shaped the fabric of our days. Affection teaches us to find delight not in the extraordinary, but in the ordinary. It allows us to see beauty in the simple, the homely, even the imperfect. The blemishes and failings of those we love through affection do not repel us, but somehow become part of what makes them dear. A father's rough hands, a mother's tired eyes, the siblings' teasing words. All these might seem trivial or even irritating to a stranger, but to one bound by affection, they are part of the familiarity that brings comfort. This kind of love does not demand perfection, nor does it require constant justification. It simply abides, accepting and cherishing what is near. Yet affection, like all loves, carries with it both strength and weakness. Because it grows out of habit and familiarity, it can sometimes cling too tightly. What begins as love can turn into possessiveness, the desire to keep someone exactly as they are because change feels like a threat. Parents who refuse to let their children grow, friends who resent the widening circles of another's life, households where the bond of closeness becomes stifling rather than nurturing. These are all ways in which affection can go astray. What was once a gentle comfort can harden into a jealous grip, forgetting that true love must allow freedom as well as closeness. Affection is also vulnerable to blindness. Because it feels so natural, we may believe it excuses all things. A parent may overlook the faults of a child not out of mercy, but out of willful ignorance. A person may tolerate unkindness simply because it comes from someone familiar. Affection can easily slide into indulgence, excusing what ought not to be excused. Yet, at its best, it is not indulgence but patience, not blindness but a steady vision that sees both the flaws and the worth of the one loved. Another curious quality of affection is its ability to cross boundaries that other loves may not. It does not require shared ideals, intellectual kinship, or even attraction. Affection can bind together people who, on the surface, have little in common. It can grow between the elderly and the young, between master and servant, between people of different temperaments and stations. Its power lies in the shared life, in the accumulation of small moments lived together. Affection often surprises us, for it blossoms where we least expect it, and among people we might not have chosen. That it is this love that first opens the human heart to the possibility of giving itself to another. Before one can grasp the nobility of friendship, the fire of Eros, or the heights of charity, one must first learn the simple lesson of caring for those who are given to us by circumstance. The child does not choose his parents, nor the parents their child's personality. Siblings are not selected, nor are neighbors arranged to our liking. And yet, affection grows within these unchosen relationships. It teaches us to love not because someone is admirable or desirable, but because they are near, because they have become woven into the texture of our lives. Affection also has a peculiar humility to it. It does not boast, does not make claims to grandeur, and often remains unnoticed by the world at large. Unlike Eros, it does not proclaim itself with passion. Unlike friendship, it does not pride itself on shared vision. It is content with small things, a meal together, a familiar voice, the quiet presence of another in the same room. Its language is not lofty, but homely. It says not "I cannot live without you," but "I would miss you terribly if you were gone." And it is precisely this humility that makes it enduring. The loves that burn too brightly may consume themselves, but affection lasts because it does not demand to be constantly fed with drama or spectacle. This love is not meant to stand alone, but it prepares the soil for all others. A person who has never known affection may find it difficult to trust in friendship, to surrender in Eros, or to give in charity. For affection is the first school of love, teaching us that to love is not always to feel passion, nor to admire, but sometimes simply to remain faithful in the ordinary moments of life. In its quiet way, it builds resilience, for it shows us that love does not always need to be exciting in order to be real. It can be as steady as the ticking of a clock, as unremarkable as the daily routine. And yet, it carries within it a depth that sustains us through the years. Friendship is unlike any other form of love, for it is born not out of necessity, not out of blood, nor out of desire, but from the mysterious meeting of minds. It begins when two or more people discover that they share a vision, an understanding, or a passion for the same truth. It is often said that friendship is unnecessary for survival, like philosophy, like art, like the stars themselves. Yet though it may not keep us alive, it gives us something to live for, filling existence with meaning and joy that no other love can replicate. The beauty of friendship lies in its freedom. It is not imposed upon us by family bonds, nor is it compelled by the urgencies of passion. It arises voluntarily, quietly, and often unexpectedly. Two souls, walking different paths, suddenly find that their roads converge at a single point of shared interest, and in that recognition, something new is born. You too. I thought I was the only one, is the secret cry of the heart that marks the beginning of this love. Unlike affection, which grows naturally from familiarity, friendship must be discovered, and that discovery has a thrill unlike any other. Friendship is also unique in that it does not turn the lovers toward each other as Eros does, but side by side toward a common horizon. The bond is not in the possession of one another, but in the shared pursuit of something higher than either individual. Friends are companions in the journey of thought, in the search for truth, in the delight of shared wonder. They do not stare endlessly into one another's eyes. They stand shoulder to shoulder, pointing beyond themselves to something greater. That is why friendship is often misunderstood by those who look for dramatic gestures of intimacy. Its intimacy is quieter, rooted not in need, but in recognition and agreement that in friendship there is a certain equality that other loves do not always afford. In family life, roles can define us, parent and child, elder and younger. In Eros, there is the mystery of longing and possession. But in friendship, one soul greets another on common ground. There may be differences of age, status, or ability, but within the circle of true friends, these fade into the background. What matters is not who you are in society's eyes, but what truth you both behold together. The conversation is not about the self, but about the shared vision. And in this way, friendship liberates us from the narrow prison of our own concerns. Yet, as with all loves, friendship carries both blessings and perils. Because it is selective, it is not given to all but only to those who share in the same vision. It can become exclusive in the wrong sense. Friends may withdraw into their own circle, despising those who do not understand, cultivating pride in their supposed superiority. The shared joy of seeing the same truth can harden into a clique that shuts out others, mistaking unity for arrogance. The very strength of friendship, its ability to bind people together in common purpose, can also become its danger when it forgets humility. Nevertheless, when friendship is rightly ordered, it is one of the most ennobling experiences of life. It calls us out of ourselves, stretching our minds and broadening our souls. A true friend is not one who merely affirms us, but one who challenges us, who sharpens our thoughts and corrects our errors. Iron sharpens iron, and in the company of friends, we are refined. Alone, we may fall prey to our own blind spots, but with friends, we discover new perspectives and see the world with greater clarity. Friendship thus becomes not only a source of joy, but of growth. Another profound quality of friendship is its capacity for joy without envy. In Eros, there is always the possibility of jealousy, for the love is exclusive and demands possession. In family affection, there may be rivalry among siblings or resentment between generations. But in true friendship, the addition of another does not diminish, but enlarges the circle. Two may rejoice in their shared vision, but when a third joins, the joy does not divide, it multiplies. Each friend brings out aspects of the others that would otherwise remain hidden, and together they form a richness that no one relationship could hold alone. Thus friendship, far from being diminished by numbers, flourishes in community. It is also worth noting that friendship often thrives where it is least expected. It is not bound by geography, by bloodlines, or by circumstances. Two people separated by years or by cultures may yet find themselves united in mind and heart because they love the same truth. This is why letters between friends across great distances can carry such depth, why a single conversation between strangers can ignite a lifelong bond. Friendship is not about constant presence, but about shared vision, and so it can withstand absence and endure across time. Friendship also differs from other loves in its quiet dignity. It does not clamor for recognition. The world celebrates Eros in poems and songs, exalts family in institutions and rituals, but friendship is often left in the shadows. It does not shout its presence, yet it shapes our lives in profound ways. The history of thought, of literature, of discovery, is filled with friendships that changed the course of the world, souls who, standing side by side, pursued truth together, and in so doing left a mark on humanity. Though friendship may not appear in the headlines, it leaves behind legacies that echo through generations. At its core, friendship is a love of freedom and of truth. It allows people to step outside themselves, to see through another's eyes, to rejoice in something beyond self-interest. It calls us to honesty, for in friendship pretense quickly dissolves. It invites us into loyalty, for though friendship may be chosen, it requires faithfulness to endure. And it grants us joy, for there are few pleasures greater than the laughter of a companion who understands, the thrill of a conversation that deepens into wonder, or the quiet knowledge that there is someone who walks beside us, not because they must, but because they choose to. Eros is perhaps the most dazzling and perilous of all loves, for it comes with a fire that can both illuminate and consume. It is the love of desire, the love that longs not merely to possess, but to unite. Unlike affection, which is familiar and humble, or friendship, which is chosen and free, Eros overwhelms the senses, captivating both body and spirit with a singular intensity. It does not say simply, I want you, but rather, I long to belong to you, to be joined with you in a way that leaves no division. In this sense, it is one of the most powerful experiences known to humanity, for it carries within it the potential both to exalt life and to shatter it. Eros often begins with attraction, the spark of beauty, the mystery of another that draws the eye and stirs the heart. Yet if it were nothing more than physical desire, it would not deserve the name of love. Desire by itself can be fleeting and shallow, but Eros at its best seeks more. It wishes for intimacy of soul as well as of body, for knowledge of the other that goes beyond the surface. The beloved is not merely an object of pleasure, but becomes, in the eyes of the lover, the very axis around which the world turns. This intensity can make Eros appear intoxicating, for it lifts the ordinary into the extraordinary, transforming even the simplest moments into symbols of meaning. There is a nobility in Eros when it is rightly ordered. It awakens in us a sense of self-giving, a willingness to put aside personal comfort for the sake of another's joy. The lover discovers within himself the desire to sacrifice, to protect, to honor. In its truest form, Eros does not degrade but dignifies, lifting both persons toward something greater than either would be alone. This is why throughout history poets have sung of it, artists have painted it, and musicians have composed for it. Eros, at its height, seems to open a window onto the eternal, as though in the union of two lives one might glimpse a shadow of divine mystery. Yet the very power that makes Eros so exalted also makes it dangerous, for when passion overwhelms reason, it can enslave rather than liberate. Desire can disguise itself as devotion, and obsession can masquerade as love. When the beloved becomes not a person to be cherished, but an idol to be possessed, Eros twists into something destructive. The one who claims to love may in truth be seeking only to consume, to dominate, to satisfy the self. Such corruption has left countless tragedies in its wake, for when Eros is stripped of respect and responsibility, it turns from flame to wildfire, leaving ruin where it once promised glory. Eros also tempts us with illusions. It can make us believe that passion alone is enough to sustain a life together, that the intensity of feeling will never fade. But feelings by their nature rise and fall, and Eros that is built only on passion without commitment is fragile. The fire burns brightly at first, but unless it is tended, it will dwindle. Many have mistaken the first intoxication of Eros for eternal love, only to find themselves disillusioned when time cools the flame. True Eros must grow deeper, maturing into something steadier if it is to endure. One of the paradoxes of Eros is that it is both profoundly selfless and profoundly selfish. In its best moments, it calls us out of ourselves, urging us to live for the beloved rather than for our own desires. The lover forgets his own comfort in the joy of the other, finding happiness in giving rather than taking. And yet Eros is also intensely possessive, longing to have the beloved wholly and exclusively. It is both gift and demand, both generosity and hunger. The challenge lies in allowing its selfless impulse to triumph over its selfish one, for only then can Eros fulfill its promise. Eros also has a way of transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary. A walk, a glance, a shared word becomes heavy with meaning. The whole world seems brighter, charged with significance because of the presence of the beloved. What might once have seemed dull becomes radiant, touched by the sense that everything points toward the one who is loved. This is part of the enchantment of Eros, and though it may not last with the same intensity, it reveals the human capacity to see the world not as cold and indifferent, but as alive with beauty and meaning. Another quality of Eros is its vulnerability. To give oneself in love is to risk rejection, misunderstanding, even betrayal. Unlike affection, which rests on familiarity or friendship, which is freely chosen, Eros exposes the deepest parts of the heart. It requires trust, for to love passionately is to place one's happiness, even one's identity, in the hands of another. That vulnerability is both Eros's glory and its danger. It allows for a union so profound that it can feel transcendent, but it also leaves one open to wounds that cut more deeply than any other, its truest. Eros is not merely about two individuals, but about the mystery of unity. It is a longing to bridge the separation between self and other, to move beyond isolation into communion. It awakens a hunger for wholeness, for intimacy that touches every part of existence. And in this hunger, Eros reveals something of the human condition itself, that we are not meant to remain solitary, that our lives are incomplete without the bonds of love. Eros, then, is both a gift and a trial. It reveals the heights of human passion and devotion, while at the same time demanding wisdom, restraint, and humility. It can lift us toward nobility or drag us into ruin, depending on how we guard and guide it. It is one of the most powerful forces we will ever encounter, and in learning to honor it rightly, we learn something profound about the nature of ourselves and of love itself. Charity stands apart from all other loves, not because it cancels them, but because it fulfills them. Where affection binds us through familiarity, where friendship unites us in shared vision, and where Eros draws us through passion, charity descends as a gift that is neither demanded nor deserved. It is the love that gives without expectation, that forgives without condition, that seeks not its own gain, but the good of the other. Unlike the other loves, which often begin in the natural impulses of human life, charity comes as something greater than instinct. It is the movement of the heart outward, beyond what is easy, beyond what is comfortable, into a realm where love is chosen, deliberate, and sacrificial. The essence of charity is its selflessness. It does not ask, "What shall I receive in return?" but only, "What can I give?" Where affection may sometimes cling, where friendship may sometimes exclude, where Eros may sometimes possess, charity seeks only to bless. It is patient when wronged, kind when misunderstood, gentle when resisted. Charity is not blind, for it sees clearly the flaws of those it loves, yet it loves still. This is its strength, that it does not depend upon worthiness. To be loved by affection, one must be familiar. To be loved in friendship, one must share vision. To be loved in Eros, one must inspire desire. But charity extends itself even to those who cannot return it, even to those who reject it. This love is rare precisely because it is demanding. It asks for the surrender of pride, the silencing of resentment, the overcoming of self-interest. It requires us to love not because another deserves it, but because love itself demands to be given. In this way, charity is the most difficult of loves, for it calls us beyond instinct and into discipline. It requires us to bend our will, to restrain our selfish impulses, and to act not according to what is easiest, but according to what is highest. To live with charity is to be willing to give without being thanked, to forgive without being asked, To serve without being recognized. One of the most striking features of charity is its resilience. Affection may fade when familiarity is broken. Friendship may dissolve when visions no longer align. Eros may cool when passion subsides. But charity endures even in the absence of reciprocity. It can love the unlovable, stand firm in betrayal, and continue when all other bonds have failed. In this sense, charity is the most unshakable of loves, for it depends not on the response of the other, but on the commitment of the one who loves. It is not drawn out by beauty or virtue, but springs from a deeper well that does not run dry. Charity also elevates the other loves, redeeming them from their weaknesses. Affection, when twisted, may become possessive, but charity purifies it by reminding us to give freedom as well as care. Friendship, when corrupted, may become exclusive and prideful, but charity enlarges it by teaching humility and openness. Eros, when uncontrolled, may become enslaving, but charity ennobles it by anchoring passion in respect and sacrifice. Charity is not a competitor to the other loves, but their completion. It brings balance, ensuring that love does not collapse into selfishness, but rises into true devotion. It is easy to imagine charity as a gentle, soft kind of love, but in truth it is fierce in its strength. To continue loving when there is no reward requires courage. To forgive an enemy requires greater resolve than to defeat one. To bless those who wound us demands a strength that is beyond instinct. Charity is not weakness. It is the strongest love of all, for it resists the natural pull toward bitterness and vengeance. It requires mastery of self, the will to rise above injury, and the vision to see beyond the moment. Another remarkable quality of charity is its universality. Where other loves are often particular, directed toward family, friends, or beloved, charity is expansive. It does not confine itself to the inner circle, but stretches outward, embracing strangers, outcasts, even adversaries. It refuses to be bound by preference or prejudice. It recognizes in every person, regardless of status or condition, a worth that demands respect and compassion. This does not mean charity is blind to evil or indifferent to wrong, but that it refuses to answer hatred with hatred or cruelty with cruelty. Charity also transforms the one who gives it. In learning to love selflessly, the heart is enlarged. The act of giving without expectation releases us from the prison of our own desires. It reshapes our character, teaching patience, humility, generosity. Where other loves may sometimes entangle us in rivalry or jealousy, charity frees us, for it is not rooted in possession. The one who practices charity discovers a paradox that in pouring oneself out, one becomes fuller. In giving away, one becomes richer. The practice of charity also shapes communities. Families held together by affection may crumble under strain, but when charity is present, reconciliation is possible. Friendships may fracture, but charity can mend them. Nations may be divided, but charity, when practiced, plants seeds of peace. It creates an atmosphere where grudges lose their grip, where compassion overcomes indifference, and where justice is pursued without hatred. Charity does not erase conflict, but it changes the way conflict is faced, replacing vengeance with mercy and suspicion with understanding. Charity has a quality of quietness, for it often works unseen. It does not seek recognition or applause, and in this way, it may go unnoticed, yet its effects ripple outward, changing lives in ways that are often invisible. A word of kindness given when none was expected, a forgiveness extended when bitterness seemed certain, a sacrifice made without announcement. These acts of charity may pass without fanfare, but they alter the world more profoundly than louder gestures. It is often in the unnoticed acts that charity shows its truest strength, revealing the power of love that does not depend on being observed. When the four loves are woven together, they create a tapestry that reveals the fullness of human nature in all its complexity and depth. Each love on its own gives us something vital, yet incomplete. Affection teaches us to cherish what is near and familiar. Friendship elevates us through shared vision, Eros stirs the heart with passion and longing, and charity crowns them all with selflessness and sacrifice. To understand humanity rightly is to see not only how each of these loves functions individually, but how they interact, correct, and enrich one another. Affection grounds us, for it is the first love we know. It roots us in the simple bonds of family and familiarity, reminding us that love often begins not in grandeur, but in the everyday. It is this love that teaches us the value of patience, of acceptance, of cherishing the ordinary. Without affection, the human heart would grow cold, unable to see worth in the small details of life. But affection alone is not enough, for if it hardens into possessiveness, it can stifle growth. It needs the balance of the other loves to keep it from becoming distorted. Friendship ennobles us, for it opens the door to companionship based not on blood or passion, but on choice and recognition of a shared truth. It is here that we discover the joy of standing shoulder to shoulder with another, seeing the same horizon, and journeying together toward it. Friendship gives us equality, honesty, and the sharpening of mind that comes from dialogue and mutual encouragement. Yet friendship, too, if left unchecked, can become narrow and exclusive, mistaking unity for superiority. For this reason, it must be tempered by charity, which reminds it to remain open and humble. Eros stirs us, awakening within the human heart a longing so powerful that it can shape the whole of life. It is the love that reveals beauty that draws us out of ourselves in desire for union. Eros, at its best, dignifies both body and soul, reminding us of the mystery and power of love that goes beyond reason. It can lift life into poetry, infusing meaning into moments that might otherwise seem plain. Yet Eros, too, is vulnerable to corruption, for it can easily slide into obsession, jealousy, or selfishness. To remain noble, it must be guided by charity, which steadies passion with sacrifice and respect. Charity redeems them all, for it is the love that gives without asking. It does not depend on worthiness or reciprocity. It corrects the weaknesses of affection, reminding us not to cling too tightly. It purifies friendship, ensuring that it does not close itself off in pride. It ennobles Eros, teaching it that true union requires sacrifice, not possession. Charity does not compete with the other loves, but lifts them, anchoring them in a higher vision of love that is enduring and unselfish. In this way, charity does not replace but completes the rest, transforming what might be fragile or distorted into something lasting and whole. Together, the four loves show us the dimensions of what it means to be human. They reveal that we are not creatures of instinct alone, nor of reason alone, nor of passion alone. We are beings made for relationship, for bonds that nurture, inspire, challenge, and redeem us. Affection ties us to the roots of life, grounding us in the ordinary. Friendship draws us upward into companionship and shared pursuit. Eros awakens the depths of desire and the longing for wholeness. Charity binds them all in a higher love that does not falter even when others do. These loves, when woven together, also teach us balance. Too much of one without the others distorts the picture. Affection without charity can become smothering. Friendship without humility can become arrogant. Eros without sacrifice can become destructive. Even charity, misunderstood, can turn into indulgence if it ignores truth and justice. The fullness of human nature lies not in exalting one love above all others, but in allowing them to interact, to shape one another, and to point beyond themselves. The interplay of these loves also shows us something about the human journey. We begin with affection, learning first to love those who are near simply because they are given to us. As we grow, we discover friendship, learning to choose companions in the pursuit of what is true and meaningful. With maturity comes the awakening of Eros, the deep longing for intimacy that calls us out of isolation. And throughout it all, charity beckons us to transcend self-interest, to give freely, and to love even when it costs us. In this progression, we see not merely stages of love, but the unfolding of humanity itself. What emerges from this weaving together is a vision of love that is richer than any single form could provide. Life without affection would be cold and detached. Life without friendship would be lonely and narrow. Life without Eros would lack passion and mystery. Life without charity would collapse under the weight of selfishness. But together, these loves create a harmony that reflects the fullness of what it means to be human, creatures who long, who give, who grow, who belong. The tapestry of the four loves also explains why human nature is never simple. We are beings capable of tenderness and jealousy, of loyalty and pride, of passion and sacrifice. The loves within us can elevate or corrupt, depending on how they are ordered. To live fully human is to recognize both their power and their peril, to seek their beauty while guarding against their distortions. It is in this tension that our lives are shaped, and it is through this weaving of loves that our character is formed in the end. The four loves are not merely categories of affection, but windows into the human condition. They show us the many ways we can give ourselves and the many ways we can fail. They remind us that love is at once the most ordinary and the most extraordinary of human experiences, shaping our days in quiet ways and lifting our spirits to heights we cannot measure. They teach us that to be human is to be bound in relationships that demand patience, sacrifice, joy, and hope, relationships that reveal who we are and who we are meant to be.